Hey all, this is Stephanie from Stephanie B Creativity, and today I'm doing a lesson on a hat. And now this hat is a split back so that the ribbing only goes around the front part of your face. Here, I'll show you a picture. All right, so there we go. That's with me wearing it. I did a 3-strand crocheted chain and slip stitched it around the back edge. I did 16 rows of stitches first. So this is the cast on edge. It's worked in flat panel first until you get done with your ribbing. And then you cast on 3 more stitches and start working in a tube. This was the Red Heart Super Saver stripe, and it is the polo stripe. I really like it, but the one that you're going to see being made in this video is the Super Saver, and it's the variegated green tones. And it is a single layer hat, so it is not using up that much yarn. You could actually get 2 hats out of the 1 skein of yarn. So to make this hat, you will need yarn, scissors, a crochet hook, and if possible, a loom hook of some kind. I am starting on pin number 48 because that works for the way I like to count with my electronic counter. I'm putting on 5 rows of waste yarn, and I'm going until number 44. So I'm on number 44. I'm going to go under this peg right here to the side and then put it into the yarn guide right here. You need to make sure that when this starts bringing the yarn down, your yarn is in front of those little pins like that. The yarn needs to be in front of those little pins so that when it pulls down, that hook goes and pulls your yarn into the machine. And I give, once it goes down over that little peg, I give my yarn a little tug, gentle, so that it keeps that loop on the end tidy. All right, that's actually 5 rows of waste yarn. And now I am going to take a super bright, different color to be my ripcord. It's super dry here. Be careful and watch for tuck stitches. Mostly I'm saying that for myself. All right, down and release. Now I'm ready to start with my main color. I'm going to do 16 rows ish, you know. This is going to be for the brim. I'll come back when I have my 16 rows and I will show you how to do the ribbing. Super simple. 16. This is row 16. We're going down this way. And we're actually working on row 17 going back. I am doing a 2x1 rib. I'm not ribbing on the first and second needle. Every third needle, I'm going to be dropping and picking back up to make the rib. It is not as scary as it sounds. And because we have this lovely waste yarn here, we can work all the way down to the bottom and then come back up and not have any problems. We will make sure that all of our stitches are actually going to the very, very bottom, to this last colored bump of the main color that's between my waste yarn and my ripcord. All right, so 1, 2, 3. So I need to be on number 42. There. You need to make sure that your stitch has popped over. And what that does is that this stitch next to it is still locked in, and this one, the needle is up really tall. So you don't have to worry about when you go like this and bring it around those fingers to make it easier to lift it off. You're not going to lose your stitch on either side. The loom pick makes it a lot easier to get in and hook that yarn. But the crochet hook is what you need when you are dropping those stitches. So I'm down here to this last stitch. It's the one coming out of my waste yarn. That's the one I want. From inside the machine this way, I'm going to poke into that loop right there. I'm going to go under this first bar. I'm going to pull it through the loop. Now I'm going to walk my way up the ladder. So I'm going to go under the bar, catch it with the hook, and pull it through the loop. And out here on the edge, it's really nice to keep a hold of the yarn with your hand, with your other hand. Make sure that you walk up the ladder. Walk up that ladder. It gets a little bit harder as you get closer to the top. I don't pull as hard or add as much tension when I get up here at the top edge because the threads are already tighter. There. And to make it easy to get back on, make sure you're not under those fingers on either side of the hook. But once you drop it back on, pop it down under those fingers. We're going to go forward. We're actually knitting this in as we do our work. So I'm going to skip 41 and 40. I'm going to number 39. It's popped the stitch over the top. I'm going to release it from those pegs. It makes it so much easier to get this off the hook. Right there. Remember, go down to the bottom of that stitch. So down here, where it's coming through my waste yarn, that's my last stitch in that column. And just gently work back down to it. I held on to that so it's easy to put my hook into, and then walk my way back up. I will do it one more time for you guys, and then I am going to zip around and get this all ribbed up. And then we'll move in. I'll show you how to connect to move into tube mode. Drop that back over. Be careful when you're going over that you don't apply pressure to the actual hook. You're only applying pressure to the yarn, not the hook. So we'll do it one more time. We've got 1, 2, so I'm going to number 36 now. The yarn has popped over. it's ready. I can give it a little tug. Go down to the bottom, find my stitch that's coming through my waste yarn and hold it with my finger. Pinching. I'm pinching it between my thumb and my forefinger. Right here. Just like that. Taking my crochet hook through that loop and walking up the ladder. All I'm doing is hooking the yarn and pulling it through the loop. This happens to be a 4mm hook. You can use whatever size hook makes you happy. The 4mm just seems to work pretty well for the size of stitches when using a worsted number 4 yarn. When I'm doing these ladders back up, that last stitch can be a little bit harder and a little tricky, so just take your time. Lift it over. Don't apply pressure to the hook that you're dropping it onto the needle. And there we go. So I'm going to go along and I'm going to finish doing all of the ribbing. All right, I am finishing up this row. At this point, I have 3 stitches that are not being worked. So now I'm going to go into the forward motion, cranking away from me, and I'm going to go all the way around and start picking up these naked pins, or naked needles, or needles without any stitches on them. So the first one I pick up, I can just pick up like a normal one, where I would just increase 1. But this next stitch, I need to do a backward E-loop on, and the third stitch, or the third needle, I need to pick up a backwards E-loop. And then we're just going to keep cranking in normal mode. I want to be at about 65 on this counter. So that would be about 45 rows for the crown of this hat. I don't want it to be too slouchy, but it's going to be a little bit slouchy. If it doesn't feel like it's long enough, I can always add more rows. And if I decide that it's too long, I can put a lifeline in and just rip back. So we're going to go across those added stitches now. So right here, you're going to have to just be careful when you're stitching across. Make sure that your stitches drop down. There we go. And the first couple times around, you just want to make sure. I lost one of my stitches right here. I lost number 45. So I will, when I come back around, as it's coming up, I will fix that stitch. I'm going to fix that by bringing it over the front here and lifting the stitch that's on here over. So now that one's knit in. Oh, let's see. Oh yeah, you are. Okay. You're not floating. There we go. Knitting right along now. And I'm going to end up at 65 on this counter. So I'll meet you back here when I get to there. All right, I've gone around 65 times, and I don't know. That's how. Let's measure it to the other one that I did. Is that about right? Yeah, that looks about right. Well, maybe, I think I'm going to go to 70, which would 70 on my counter here, which would be adding 50 rows for the crown, because I was at 20 when we started going into tube mode. So I'm going to go to 70. There we go. We're on 70 rows. Take a nice amount out to cast off. I'm going to go around one whole time. Stop at that needle. That'll be the last one I pick up. And do the standard long tail cast off, which is just pick up a couple stitches to start off with. I like to set my finger down on the next stitch over, just to make sure when I'm pulling on my yarn, I don't pull it off the machine. As you start to get a little bit more tension released, you can start picking up more stitches. Don't split your stitches at this point with your needle. I'm going to bring this around just to make it easier. And then that last needle you have to bring all the way around till it pops up. Take it off. Run your needle through. And now I'm going to move the machine. So here we go. We have our hat on the cast off line right here. We have our hat on the waste yarn right here. And our cast on is a little bit messy here. Don't worry about that, because we're going to do an edge. So we're going to do a slip stitch braid around this edge and make the slip stitch, or make the chain stitch cord. And we don't have to have bulky yarn, and you don't have to cut multiple lengths and hope that you get the right amount. So I'll show you the trick on that in just a second. First off, I do want to stretch this a little bit. I'm going to finish off the top edge, which is just doing the standard cinch it down. You don't want any loose floppy stitches on the outside. Pull it down nice and snug. It will get more snug here in just a second as you work your way around. I'm just going to run around the top here a couple times to give us a little bit more yarn going through those loops. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to go through every single loop every time around. You can skip some if you want. Remember, this is a single layer hat, so you don't have that second layer coming up inside to hide your stitches. So try and be tidy. I just tightened it down, pulled it down nice and tight, go through a couple more stitches, and now I do want to kind of back stitch a little bit. So I'm going through a couple stitches and then going back and picking up a couple of those loops. Just like that. Go through the loop. Do it one more time, go through the loop. And now I'm going to poke the needle through the top, go to the inside, just flipping it out. I do tend to make sure that my knot gets pulled to the inside. I run around this top bit a bit, kind of bury that string. I go around a full time, a full circumference of that top. But I'm not worried about making it hit every single loop every single time. Just go through. Now that string is buried all the way around. I don't have to bury it in the hat itself. Clip that off. So here we go. We're down here at this bottom edge. This is the size probably for my husband's head. This is the one for my head. I do not have as big a head as he does. This is the back, and this is our starting edge. I'm going to grab my starting yarn here. I've got my skein of yarn. I'm going to add that in at the first loop. And the way to find the first loop is your waste yarn is coming through that first loop. The Ribstitch. The ripcord, that's coming through my very first loop. So I'm going to grab that loop, lay my yarn over it, pull through. I pull both the tail and the working yarn through the loop the first time, and then I drop the tail. And now I'm going to go into the next loop, pull through, chain 1. Next loop, wrap over, pull through, chain 1. And the reason for doing that is I want to make sure there's enough yarn down here at the bottom so that it's stretchy. So it's a slip stitch and a chain. Go in, pull through, and a chain. So right here, that's the loop. I'm going to go in the loop, pick it up on my needle, grab my yarn, so I'm wrapping it over, pulling through, and then wrap it over and pull through the loop, the last loop. That's the chain 1. So we're slip, stitch, slip stitch, poke the hook through the loop that you want to pick up, wrap your yarn over, pull it through, and pull it through, and then wrap the yarn over and pull it through the loop. That's your chain 1. Slip, chain 1. We're just going to do that all the way across. Slip, chain 1. I'll meet you back here when it's all done, and then we're going to take off all the waste yarn. Last stitch. So the last working stitch here is this one. The waste yarn is going through, both legs are going through that stitch. Make sure you pick that one up. If you don't, your hat's going to potentially unravel. And now we are completely all the way around. I am going to go ahead and just snip and pull this yarn through the loop and snug it down. These ends, these corners, are going to get sealed in with more yarn, so I'm not too worried about tying that off. Now, to get rid of this waste yarn, the quick and easy way, because this is the cast on edge, go to about the middle and pick up that yarn and pull. And just keep pulling. If you put a long tails on it, it'll take a little bit. And now watch. Like magic. Oh, I crocheted through that one. So now, look at that edge, and it is fully stretchy. See what I was talking about? This is a 2x1, but you only had to do 1x2. That is ready for us to do the magical braid edging. When you don't have bulky yarn, you know, I want to do a nice bulky braid or chain, and I don't want to have to cut off, 50 feet lengths of string, of yarn. Wrap it over. I poke my thumb through so I can push that loop. All right, we've got this loop right here. You're going to take this part of your thread, your yarn, and you're going to fold it and poke it in. Grab it with your hook. And now tighten down your slip knot around that edge, around that loop. So now we've got a big loop. Now we've got a big loop hanging down, and we have a slip knot loop on the hook, right? You're going to go like this. Reach through that loop and grab and pull. So now I have 3 strands of yarn that I'm using. I'm going to just pull through. You might want to do this with a bigger hook. Actually, I think I will. Just so I can grab the yarn more easily. This is an 8mm hook. And now I'm just doing a chain. You could do it as a finger chain. You don't have to do this part with a hook if you don't want to. I'm just going to go along, boom, bitty, boom. And then you go, but then your chain runs out. Look what we're going to do. There's your loop. You're going to reach through and just pull a long loop back. I think that's long enough. I'm laying this on top of my stitch area here. I'm coming through the corner. I'm going to grab that loop and pull it through the hat. So now I'm lined up along that edge. Now my chain is going through the hat. And now I am going to go and just every couple stitches, so I'm not really counting. I just want to evenly get a slip stitch, and this seems to cover 3 or 4 stitches, so I'm going to go forward about 3 stitches, and I'm going to do another slip stitch with that chunky yarn. Eventually you are going to lose that tail from the end. That's fine. You're still going to be working with this chunky yarn. So move forward about 3 stitches, pull up and pull through. Now I want these stitches to be nice and big. Look at that. Sorry, I moved my camera so my head kind of gets in the way sometimes. I'm going to move forward. Sometimes it's 2 stitches, sometimes it's 3 stitches, sometimes it's 1 stitch. Just evenly disperse it. Pull that loop up so that it's not tight. All right, so now I've got 2 little ends sticking out here. I'm going to go ahead and just go in, pick those up, and work them in. And now I'm all the way around to that bottom corner. So what am I going to do? I'm just going to go ahead and chain until it's the same length as my first chain. So I'll meet you back here when that is done. Oh my gosh. And look at this. This is the hat we just made. It's all ready. Split brim. Gives a little bit more room for a bigger head to go through. You don't have to do the tassels on the ends. I would still say do the finishing binding. with a slip stitch braid with the bulky yarn like this, I think that really makes a statement on it. And this is a slouchy hat. Yay! If you enjoyed this lesson, please make sure to click that like button, subscribe to the channel, share the video with your friends, share the knitted projects that you do on Instagram at Stephanie B Creativity. I'd love to see what you're doing. And remember to go out and do something creative, take care of yourself, and be kind to others. And we'll see you back here again really soon. Bye-bye.